Okay, we're going to get started. The regular meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority is now in session at 9 o'clock on August 10th, 2016. Mr. Tejas, any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So let's go on to item number 3, adoption of minutes for the CRRMA board meeting of July 13th, 2016. Everybody get a chance? It was distributed to the board members. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
It's been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Go on to item number 4, presentation, discussion, and action on the following instruments as they relate to the CRRMA's recent procurement for the Rojas Drive Improvement Project. A, board resolution awarding the project to the lowest responsible bidder and authorizing the executive director to negotiate and execute a construction contract with such lowest responsible bidder. B, supplemental work authorization number 2 with Hewitt Zollers, Inc. for design services during the construction. C, work authorization number 27.2 with Atkins North America, Inc. for construction, engineering, and inspection services. And D, amendment to VRF project development agreement with the County of El Paso for construction funding. Mr. Tess.
Okay. There it is. Ray Mateus, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. So what we have before us today is item number 4, which has several subparts and deals specifically with the procurement of the Rojas Drive Improvement Project. So I'll ask IT to bring up the PowerPoint. I'm going to walk you through this, and at the end of this I have, so here's the agenda for this particular item. So we're going to talk about the project purpose, location, and scope, the bids received, and we also received a letter of protest on this particular procurement, and then the requested board action. So obviously feel free to stop me as we go through this. This is a project within the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan, and was a project that was planned for letting in 2016, which has happened. That was let last month. The project budget for this particular project comes from the El Paso County Vehicle Registration Fee bond proceeds. As you'll recall, we issued $72 million in bonds last year to pursue this slate of projects. The County of El Paso and the RMA entered into an agreement whereby the RMA was responsible for the design of the project initially, and then the design has since been completed. And that design was actually completed by a design firm that was brought on board by the RMA through its expedited procurement process, as you will recall. The completed designs were advertised per board direction, and the RMA is now seeking to let and manage the construction of the project, and that's the procurement we're talking about today. Here's a graphic of the County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. The project that we are talking about is number 12. And here's a little more detail. This is the extension of Rojas from the end of the city limits there on the left-hand side, heading over towards East Lake Boulevard. So that's the section that we're talking about. The project itself is a 4- and 6-lane divided roadway with raised median, concrete pavement and curb, 5-foot bike lane, landscaping, continuous illumination, storm drainage, signage, and striping. Incidentally, we have the designers here with us, and we also have our general engineering consultant, should you have any technical questions about the project. The role of the county for this particular project is to provide the design and construction funding for the project, and that was completed through the vehicle registration fee bonds that were assigned to the RMA. The county also is to provide owner decisions and guidance for project issues that need resolution and or input. Now, the RMA then was tasked with completing the design, preparing and letting the project for construction, and then providing construction management services, which include oversight, engineering testing, inspection, and record keeping. These are the letting results. As you can see, we received 5 bids, ranging from $3.8 million all the way to $5.8 million. You'll note at the bottom the engineer's probable cost of construction was at $4.3 million. And incidentally, the unofficial letting results are online on our procurements page, and now that we've gone through this process, the official letting results will be added to the website as well. So as I mentioned, we did receive a letter of protest, and a representative from the protesting party is here should you be interested in hearing any of their comments. I'm going to walk you through the protest process and what happens with it. So per our procurement policy, as I mentioned, total 5 bids were received and publicly opened on July 28th of 2016. On August 1st, the RMA received a letter of protest from International Eagle Enterprises, who incidentally, as you'll note here, is the second low bidder. They are challenging the apparent low bidder's bidding capacity for this project. On August 4th, after reviewing the protest, and that review of the protest actually included, obviously, I was reviewing it with our outside attorneys and also our engineers who manage this project in coordination with TxDOT and the County of El Paso. And obviously, in accordance with our procurement policy, a decision and response of the RMA's executive director was provided to International Eagle Enterprises, denying such protest. In accordance with our protest provisions, International Eagle Enterprises then has 10 days from the executive director's decision and response in which to appeal. So we are now in that appeal process, in that appeal timeline, I should say. On August 9th, the RMA received a notice of intent to appeal, this was yesterday, of an intent to appeal from an attorney on behalf of International Eagle Enterprises. So the appeals process itself actually now consists of materials being submitted by the entity that is protesting, followed by action of the RMA board in response to that appeal. So that would be the next step. So this is the motion that I am requesting. A motion to delete the Rojas Drive items from the RMA agenda of today, which includes all subparts. So it's for A, B, C, and D, to allow for the completion of the protest process. Now, you'll note I didn't get into a great amount of detail on the protest itself because we are in an appeals process. So what I would request is that we delete the item, and when it comes back for the board through the formal appeals process, we will have our attorneys here. We'll go into executive session, and they'll lay out all of the legal options for you. But subject to your questions, of course, I would recommend approval of this particular motion.
Any questions for Mr. Tejas? Go ahead.
Well,
Mr. Nima.
thank you. On the bids, there's a matrix of a whole lot of different constituents that go into that bid price. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so we can see, or it's available to see what the engineer estimated for each one of those line items and then what the various bidders proposed. I think that's important information, and I'd like to see that when we evaluate these bids as to how these shake out and where the numbers come from.
Okay. I can share that, absolutely. So that's you're referring to the bid tab, the bid tabulation, I believe.
Right.
So I can add that to the backup for future procurements,
Okay.
absolutely.
Any other questions? Any comments from
I
Mr.
just have
Fernandez?
one question. Can you repeat again what the protest specifically said?
Yes, sir. So the protest itself was actually challenging the apparent low bidder's bidding capacity. And what that really means is the way that we structure this RMA, and actually several RMAs and other entities throughout the state, the way that we do our evaluation process includes a pre-qualification process. In our scenario, in our procurements, we rely on the pre-qualification process that TxDOT has. So, in other words, in order to receive a bid package from the RMA for any particular project, you have to have been pre-qualified by TxDOT. Now, TxDOT has at least 2 separate pre-qualification processes. One of them is referred to as the bidder's questionnaire process. Another is a confidential questionnaire process. Now, depending on which way you go, there are different rules and requirements based on that type of pre-qualification that you're seeking. What the challenger is claiming is that because of the type of pre-qualification process that the low bidder received, they are only authorized to bid up to a certain amount. So that's the claim. Now, and you have, I've shared with you the protest, I've shared with you our response, and then the subsequent letter notice of appeal. So you can see in those documents in a little more detail what their argument actually is and then what our response is.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone would like to make any comments?
Move to approve the motion.
Second.
Okay, it's It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 4 has been deleted. Thank you. We'll move on to number 5. Item number 5, presentation, discussion, and action on the following instruments as they relate to the CRRMA's recent procurement for the East Lake Boulevard Phase 2 project. A, board resolution awarding the project to the lowest responsible bidder and authorizing the executive director to negotiate and execute a construction contract with such lowest responsible bidder. B, supplemental work authorization number 2 with CEA Engineering Group, Inc., for design services during construction. C, work authorization number 27.1 with Atkins North America for construction engineering and inspection services. And D, amendment to VRF project development agreement with the County of El Paso for construction funding. Mr. Tejas.
Thank you. So I'm going to start this one, and we have a PowerPoint presentation for the board on this one as well, but I will start this one a little differently and just simply say we have no protests on this one. So that's the start. Okay. So today we're going to talk about the same thing. So very similar. This format for this particular PowerPoint is using the template that we used for Mission Ridge and then Rojas that you just saw right now. So you'll get familiar with this template, I think, very quickly. We're going to talk about the project purpose, location, and scope, the timelines associated with this particular procurement, the bids received, and the requested board action. So East Lake Boulevard Phase 2 is also a Comprehensive Mobility Plan 2013 project that was scheduled to be let in 2016, which it has been. Again, vehicle registration fee bond proceeds are being used for this particular project. County of El Paso entered into an agreement whereby the RMA was responsible for design of this particular project as well. And again, design was completed by a design firm that the RMA selected through its expedited procurement process. The completed designs were then put out on the street per your direction. The RMA now seeks to let and manage the construction of this particular project. So this one is East Lake Phase 2, which is shown as item 11. Actually, 11. Yes, 11.
Oh,
Here's it is in a little more detail, actually. So it picks up on the left-hand side, I should say the east side, from Darrington Road and heads west down connecting to Horizon Boulevard. So that is this particular project. And again, we have the designer and also the general engineering consultant should you have any technical questions about this particular project. This one is a 6-lane divided roadway with raised median. You may recall also, incidentally, that we have a separate project known as East Lake Phase 1, which when you're looking at this slide, at Darrington heading left or east, that's East Lake Phase 1, which will connect all the way back down to I-10. East Lake Phase 1 will actually come after East Lake Phase 2, as we've discussed in prior board meetings. So again, 6-lane divided roadway, raised median, concrete pavement and curb, 10-foot shared bike path, landscaping, continuous illumination, storm drainage, signing, and striping for this one. Role of the county is the same. They provide design and construction funding for this particular project and provide owner decisions and guidance for project issues that require resolution and or input. And the RMA is tasked with the design, preparing and letting the project, and actually doing the construction itself, including construction management services such as oversight, engineering, testing, inspection, and record keeping. Same as the prior project. So here's the timeline for this one. The board authorized the project to be advertised to be bid in May. By June, we had advertised. Late June, we had issued questions and answers were posted to our website. The bids were open July 28th. August 10th, which is today, we're hoping that the board will award the project and also authorize the executive director to begin negotiations. And then hopefully you would also authorize the execution of the agreement, which would then allow me to issue a notice to proceed once all the contractual paperwork is done. In terms of construction timeline, contractor we're hoping could start in October of 2016. We have 5-day work weeks for this particular project. We're anticipating 522 days, about 23 months. We allow for weather delays and possible completion in fall of 2018. These are the official letting results. As you'll see, we had 6 bidders on this particular project. The engineer's probable cost of construction was $17.5 million. Bids came in lower than that. with the apparent low bidder being Jordan Foster Construction LLC at $13.4 million, with 5 bidders below them. Again, the unofficial letting results are posted online, and these official letting results will be posted online after this meeting as well. So the motion on this one is a little bit different, asking for the RMA board to select Jordan Foster Construction LLC as the lowest responsible bidder for Eastlake Boulevard Phase 2, and also authorize the executive director to negotiate and execute a construction contract with Jordan Foster Construction LLC for the Eastlake Boulevard Phase 2 project. Now, as included in your backup is the resolution for this item as well as the 2-page contract. The supplemental instruments to the contract include all of the specs and all of the designs that have been completed to date. Now, you'll note in the backup there are highlights in there. So obviously we would fill in the blanks with Jordan Foster Construction and the appropriate amounts. But subject to your questions, that's the motion I would recommend.
Questions? Comments? Mr. Hibner.
Mr. Tejas, it's, well, you took it off the screen, but it's like $1.2 million between first bidder and the second bidder.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take a look as to why that is? I mean, it seems kind of a big spread. They're usually coming closer. I'm not an engineer, but I think I see them coming in a little closer. Was there a thorough review that maybe they didn't miss anything and we don't have some? I just don't want to have any issues later.
Yes, ma'am. So the reason why we have an unofficial letting result and an official letting result is that in the interim, the engineers sit down, the designer, along with our general engineering consultant, and they go through the bid tabs page by page, line item by line item to confirm that everything is appropriate. And that's where we find errors. That's where we find all types of mistakes. So that has been done here. And then there is additional due diligence between now and execution. Should you all approve, there is additional due diligence between now and the execution where we would require the surety bonds and the insurance certificates and all that sort of thing. And part of that process is also to confirm that the work can actually be done by this bidder at this price. So that is included as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 6.
And actually, for clarity, that was
sorry,
actually
I need
only
the-
item 5A,
sorry,
right?
skipped
So
over.
5B then, and all of these are tied, and I probably
Yeah.
should have done a better job of laying out how all of this works. As you'll recall, and through that last PowerPoint, I mentioned that the County of El Paso actually funds this entire, all of the work related to this particular project. So what you see under 5D then is an amendment to the interlocal with the County of El Paso that actually increases the amount that is authorized for the RMA to utilize for the Eastlake project. So what I mean by that is under 5D you'll see an amendment, and on the back page is an exhibit that shows the amount of funds that have been provided, that have been authorized by the county for the RMA to use for design services. And what we've done now is add a line for construction services. So that amount then is added so that we can pay for the construction contract that you all just approved. The item under 5B, which is a supplemental work authorization with CEA Engineering, and that's the engineering firm that completed the design to date that we used to put out to bid. So what we're asking for now under supplemental work authorization number 2 under 5B is an extension or an amendment of that agreement that actually adds funds for design services during construction. So while we're out there constructing it, there may be a need for engineers to come back and redesign or do some additional work that would help the construction contractor complete the project. So that's what you see under 5B. 5C then is the oversight activity that we use our general engineering consultant for. So that includes everything from engineering and inspection services and all those associated activities that an oversight firm, or usually, for example, the City of El Paso's engineering department, by way of example, would be handling this oversight activity in-house. But we don't have that. We use our general engineering consultant for those oversight services, so that's what you see under 5C. So again, 5D then provides The funding from the vehicle registration fee bond proceeds gives us the authority to use the funds to pay for 5A, which is the construction contract, 5B, which is design services during construction, and 5C, which is the oversight activities necessary.
So, Mr. Tess, do you want to take those separately, or do you want to do,
It's as you wish. You can take them together if you'd like.
so we would do B, C, and D since we've approved
Yes,
A
ma'am.
already? Any discussion or take a motion to approve B, C, and D?
Motion approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now, item number 6. Quarterly presentation, update and discussion on the following programs or projects: 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan and B, El Paso Streetcar Project. Mr. Taz.
Oops. Okay. So as you know, each quarter we provide updates on the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan as well as the streetcar project. So we are due for both today. Today we have with us David Head, who is part of our general engineering consultant team out of the Atkins firm, and he's going to provide the update for you today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
David Head with the GEC, Atkins. And I'll be presenting the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan Quarterly Report. It's getting bigger as we go along. So we'll talk about, we'll look at the map again. You've seen it several times. We'll go through the project listing of all the projects, and then we'll go into the updates. So this is the map you've seen many times before, and most of those projects are on this map, and they're spread out throughout the El Paso County area. And so we've grouped these into 3 different types of projects. We've got the projects that are still in design. We have the ones that are under construction, and then we have what I call the others. So the ones in design, number 9 from the map you just saw is East Lake 1, which I think Mr. Tejas just talked about, or he was showing you a portion of it from I-10 to Darrington Road. Then the Vista del Sol Drive from 375 to Charrington. The newest one is Darrington Road from East Lake to Pelicano. And then the Historic Trail Project, which pretty much goes all the way through the county. So the projects under construction, or very near there, are the Old Waco Tanks, which is currently being advertised, East Lake 2, which was just let, Rojas Drive was let in July also, and then the Mission Ridge project is currently being built right now. The others, there's 2 of them, Gregg to Edgemere, which is an extension essentially of Edgemere, is number 14 on the list, and number 16 is the Aguilera International Highway. So the projects in design, East Lake Phase 1 is the first one I wanted to talk about. Like Mr. Tejas said, it's a 6-lane divided from I-10 to Darrington. The PS&E is approximately at 100% complete. There's a few little tweaks that we're still doing on it. The construction probable cost is around $25 million. And the anticipated letting, we're waiting on the VRF2 bond source to come in. So once that is done, then we should be able to let this project also. So the design contract amount was $2.3 million. And invoice to date is around $2.2 million. So with that, the right-of-way status, there are a few parcels that are still pending acquisition. I think they're very close. And then the utility status, AT&T is working currently. Then you have some others that will be relocating soon, but we still have time for that, and we anticipate that most of them will be done before construction. The next one in design is the Vista del Sol project, and it's a widened from 4-lane divided roadway from 375 to Charrington. The plans are basically at 98%, a little bit left to do on it. There's some additions that we had to do, and the probable cost is at $4 million. We anticipate to let as soon as we're done, which is, we're thinking it's going to be October here very shortly. Also, the water utility has some a sanitary sewer and a water line that are being added to the plans also as part of the bid. So that's essentially some of the stuff that we're still working on. The design contract amount was $425,000, and invoice to date is around $414,000. This is the newest project we started on, the Darrington Road project. It's widened to a 4-lane divided road from East Lake to Pelicano. The plans are at around 30% complete, and the probable cost is $5 million. And we think that it will probably be let late in 2017. Contract amount and design is $854,000, and we've invoiced $43,000 to date. It's very early in the design stages. The next one we thought was going to be the easiest project becomes the hardest project for us to get out of design. This is the historic trail project from San Elizario to Anthony. It goes all the way through the county. It's a very long project and very discussed about project from design and trying to coordinate and those sorts of things, trying to get signs on TxDOT right away, that sort of thing. The PS&E plans are basically at 100%. There's a few little tweaks. We're trying to wrap that up right now. The probable cost is at $270,000, and we're working with the county and TxDOT on inclusion of some additional signage to make the route a little more useful to the people using it so they don't get lost in certain areas. So we've gone back to do some of that, and we're really waiting on TxDOT to tell us whether we can include that signage or not. The letting will be scheduled. I'm thinking it's going to happen in October or earlier, probably October though, but we're waiting on that TxDOT coordination to come through. So hopefully that will come through and we can get that one out the door. To date, the design contract amount was $195,000, and we've invoiced up to $181,000. So we're still moving on this one. I'm sure there'll be some more come in. Did I miss something? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Old Waco Tanks Road. This is a federal project. TxDOT told me it's been 10 years to the date that we got from one agreement, I guess from inception to agreement. We were very happy to get all that done. It's a construct a 4-lane divided road, and one thing interesting, it was a late breaking thing that happened with it is they're not going to call it Old Waco Tanks anymore. They're going to call it East Lake. So you're going to have East Lake on both sides of the freeway. The plans are at 100% complete, and if you remember, TxDOT did those plans, so they've been done. We're waiting for a few things, but the construction estimate is at $10.4 million, or the probable cost. The letting is this month, so hopefully we'll get some good bids on that. And the city of Socorro had some things that they had to do. The right-of-way is now cleared. They had to acquire that right-of-way. And the utility relocations, they're pretty much ongoing, but pretty much done at this point. The funding sources, TxDOT had some federal money in it. The city of Socorro was putting some money into, or giving some money to the county to do this project, and the county is providing the VRF funds for it. So the next one under construction is East Lake Phase 2. You just talked about it a little bit. It's that widened to a 6-lane divided. Plans are complete. The probable cost was around $17.4. We let it in July, and you just went through some board action with that. And then the funding sources, if you remember, was the town of Horizon was putting money in to reimburse the county, and the county was giving us the VRF funds. So. Excuse me. So the design contract amount was at $1.5 million, and they invoiced basically most of it, $1.5 million. So we're pretty much moving on to construction with that. The Rojas Drive project, it was, of course, let in July. You had some discussion on it. It was widened to 6 lanes divided. Plans are complete. It had some board action done with it, and the design contract amount was $496,000, and we invoiced to date $468,000. Okay, Mission Ridge, this is the one that's actually turning dirt out there right now. It's from Pelicano to 1 mile south. It's a very busy part of the county right now, it seems like. The contract amount for construction is $4.5 million. CMD Endeavors is the contractor out there, and he's billed $2.8 million. We're ahead of schedule on this one. There's 53% of the time versus we're complete 63, so we are ahead of schedule. They're out there right now doing roadway embankment, flexible base, curb and gutter, sidewalk, those things. You can see a picture of some of that on the side. We should be paving probably next week is what I'm told, and we're thinking that it will be complete early 2017. Here's just some pictures of it. You can see the roadway being worked. There's a pond in the middle that was, it's a big pond that's pretty much complete now, and some of the sidewalk and those things. So the other projects that I mentioned earlier, one of them is the Gregg Edgemere Extension Project. It's from, basically pushes Edgemere all the way through to Gregg. As you can see, it's 4-lane divided with bike lanes. It had some funding through the RMA, which RMA received the VRF funds, and then the county wanted to do a county developer participation agreement, so they went back through the county with that $2.5 million. The other project is the Aguilera International Highway that TxDOT is oversighting for the RMA. Dan Williams Company is a $15.5 million contract. They look like they're about right on time, $9.3 million paid. They did have a change order that was actually decreased the cost of the contract by $49,000, which had a detour that they did not place, did not use, and then they added some metal beam guard fence, I guess to fix some of the area up and some culvert extensions. So it decreased the contract by $49,000 and change. The bridge at the railroad tracks is 75% complete now, and they're still anticipating a spring 2017 completion date. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Head? Lots going on.
Yes,
Madam
ma'am.
Chair, one question. You've shown, and this is how do we reconcile the amount that's been paid and the percent completion? And it seems like you use the amount paid as a proxy for percent complete. Is that basically
That's
true?
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We assess time on the project, so the contractor is given days. So he has so many days to complete the project, and we put that against how much they've spent or invoiced on the project. That's how we get to those two numbers.
And then when you come to the end, because you have a number of projects you showed us where 95% of the monies had been paid, so you're at the final step, but the project has to be completed when there's $5,000 left or whatever. Some of these numbers were very low. These projects, that's enough to complete these projects, or?
Okay, well, let me back up a second. The design projects, we really don't give them days. They give us a schedule, and we look at that, and we're kind of guesstimating. And being at all those project meetings, there's so many little tiny things, and so there's still invoice that's lagging back from before. So I anticipate that we'll get there. And to answer your question, the construction ones are the ones where we have the days versus the time. We know pretty much how those go, and then the ones for design, we're looking at their schedule, what we think they need to due to complete the project versus what they've spent. So two different kind
But
of
they all get completed.
guesstimations.
They all get completed, right?
Yes, sir, they do.
If you don't mind, is your question that, is there a retainage being held, enough being
Right.
held that they actually can go to completion? Are you not releasing the funds too early when there's still a lot of work to be done? I think that's the question. And does your 95% include the retainage that was held, or is that outside of it?
Okay, for design, we're not holding retainage.
I think we're just talking construction.
Construction.
Yeah. just
Okay, construction, yes, they have, there's a retainage bond, or there's retainage for the project, and then there's the construction bond. So if they didn't complete, we go back through their construction bond. We release retainage at the end of the project. Once we get to a punch list, there's a certain percentage that we release, and then we release the rest of it once it's been accepted by, of course, the county and the RMA.
Okay.
So it will get completed, and we will do all the little punch list things, like when you get a house and you need the paint touched up or something, those things will be done too. So.
Thank you.
No further questions? Thank you, Mr. Head.
Thank you.
Mr. Tess.
While I have a moment, I would mention, Mr. Head did mention one thing that I did want to touch on, which is, as you know, we've issued bonds in the amount of $72 million to date for the vehicle registration fee program, which is, excuse me, a portion of the comprehensive mobility plan. However, we're already in discussions with the County of El Paso for a second bond issuance to allow for the completion of several other projects that were always anticipated to be funded with, if you recall, the transportation reinvestment zones. But as you'll recall, the Attorney General gave an opinion that county transportation reinvestment zones were problematic. So the county has shifted gears in terms of how they want to fund the remaining projects. So we are working with them right now, and you may actually see, as soon as September, you may see some documentation related to a second bond issuance off of the vehicle registration fee. So just to let you know, that's coming on the horizon. All right. So with that, then I'll ask IT to bring up the PowerPoint for item 6B. And that is the quarterly presentation for the El Paso Streetcar Project. And today we have with us our project manager, Gil Gardner, who's also part of our general engineering consultant team from the Atkins firm.
Good morning. I'm Gil Gardner with the GEC and the project manager and construction manager for the El Paso Streetcar Project. And I'm happy to be here again, and this is a really good one that I want to present you this morning because we're beginning to come out of the ground on this system, and that's where it gets exciting. So a couple of items, our agenda items. I want to give you an update on the infrastructure, update on construction. I know you're really interested in the PCC cars, so we'll go over the vehicle remanufacture. We have a new item that we're covering is the implementation and operations plan, and that's the plans that will be used for basically operating the system when it starts in late 2018. Community involvement, and then the overall construction management. Contract sum today, the contract sum was $61 million, almost $61,500,000. We've had 3 change orders to date for a total of about $308,000, which is actually pretty low considering that we're 25% complete almost. I know you had some questions earlier about the type of percentage of completion. This project is a combination of unit price bids where we have quantities which are pretty easily measurable, plus a lump sum. When the contractor comes in with his price estimate for the lump sum items, our engineers and inspectors sit down with the contractor and verify that the amount of work, the amount that they're asking for equals the amount of work that they've completed. So we're pretty confident that the project is both on schedule as far as the budget is concerned. We also, while I don't show it at this time, we're still on schedule as far as the schedule itself. We have 4 base bids that we worked on, the civil track work for a little over $10 million, the wastewater replacement to get it out from underneath the track guideway, the potable water replacement, which we're almost finished. I'll cover that shortly. And then the storm sewer and roadway improvements for CBD 4 down in the lower area of it. As I said, to date we've had change orders of $308,000. Now, the construction upgrade, like I said, we're coming out of the ground now. So if you look at the slide, if you recall the last time we made the presentation, we discussed the issues and concerns that we had with the subgrade preparation. We had to dig out a lot of rubble and tank and stuff like that. Well, that's all been taken care of. We've done the foundation. They completed the foundation, and we started steel erection in July. So it's always nice to see the building working. We've got the contractor working heavily on that one. Here's some more pictures of the construction. You can see the steel fabrication there. They got all the steel laid out. The contractors are on schedule on this one. We hope to be finished with that in about a year now, or it is about a year, isn't it, Chuck?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, about a year they'll be out of the ground or be finished on that one. The other thing that we're doing is that we're starting on the OCS pole locations and the traction power substation conduits that we're putting in for the 5 traction power. This is a picture of one of them where we're actually drilling underneath Mesa Street so we don't have to open up Mesa Street to put the conduit in. This is another one that's really, this is Oregon. We've got all of our rail components in, the major shipments. We're expecting the curved rail in here. Well, the curved rail is already in. We're expecting our switches in real shortly. They're placing track on Oregon, on Kansas, and as you can see, this is a picture of the placement of track. And if somebody wants to drive up Oregon, it's now all finished. They're putting the final curb and gutter in, and you're beginning to see what the roadway is going to look like. They've started track placement on Santa Fe from Paisano to Franklin, so that road is kind of torn up. Bear with us a little bit. We'll be there shortly. Right now, they're about 16% of the embedded track has been placed to date. We hope to be finished within this time next year. As I said earlier, we're doing a jack and bore under Mesa, which was just completed. That'll connect the TPSS, that's the traction power substation A2, to both Oregon and Stanton. So that's in place. We're doing our site work for the traction power substations. The base bids 2 and 3, which is the water and sanitary sewer, we're about 90% complete now. We're just basically, the contractor is wrapping it up. He's doing the final tie-ins, and doing some sewer line replacement on Santa Fe in Oregon, doing a water line replacement on Stanton, and the contractor said to apologize. They had just a minor issue last night on Stanton and Franklin, but they're fixing it today, and it'll be cleaned up today. So they're about 40% complete on the Father Rom and Kansas work. The storm drain replacement has been resumed at the end of July because we get the redesigns back from the city consultants. We've completed the embedded track construction is complete on Kansas south of Paisano. And they'll start repaving that, and we hope to get all of that finished. The downtown area, by the holidays, so they can be opened up again for the holidays. The first completed section of the roadway and track is scheduled to reopen at the end of August, the end of this month. That'll be Oregon from University to Schuster. So it'll be an exciting time for us. The OCS work, which will be putting up the poles and the cables and stuff, will have minimal traffic in park, and it'll start, but it really won't start work until probably late 2017, early 2018. Vehicles. Here's the exciting one. This was the initial vehicle, one of the pictures of them with all of our vehicles lined up in a row. Right now, the contract value was awarded of $17.8 million. We had one small change order for about $78,000, so the contract value's still around $17.9 million. They've invoiced to date roughly a third of the contract. The work will include the 6 vehicles, system support, training, and spare parts. When I go to the next slide, though, let me clarify something on this. No, it's next one when I show you the pictures. Amendment number 1 was done for $78,000. The car bodies are in very good condition. They've got them. They've cleaned them up. They've been stripped to the bare metal. They're ready for grit blasting. And here's where a lot of them look like. If you can see the 2 of them, they were worked on. They've got them all cleaned up. The rest of them are sitting out there, which they'll be coming on. These are current photos, but it doesn't mean they haven't been working. They've been working very hard because each one of these is a unique design because they're all custom. So the team, Brookville team, has been sitting down, completing their design, looking at everything, measuring, ordering their materials and their supplies. So they're going to start working on the first vehicle, physically working on it this fall sometime. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully by the next quarter we'll be able to give you more up-to-date photos. As I said, the design process is well underway. It's on schedule. We have another meeting to be scheduled for September, and then the vehicles for testing will be scheduled to submit it here for testing starting in December of 2017 through the 6th vehicle through July of 2018. This is another picture of the thing, and some of the stuff we'll be including in the vehicle will be the wheelchair lifts, HVAC, the pantographs, the propulsion system. All of these will be updated, and we'll have updated brake system. So what you're going to have is we're going to have the classic PCC car with the latest underneath the hood. So kind of think of it as your 49 Chevrolet with the 350 V8 engine sticking under it, which is what I had one time. But I wrecked it too. And my dad took it away from me. But anyway, one item, this is a new item on the agenda, and this is the implementation and operations plan. As part of our program as RMA at the end of the project, we have to submit a system that is ready to go, that's ready for revenue service. And part of that will be the operating manuals, the system safety and security manuals, the testing and startup manuals, and also the procedures we have to go through to get approval from TxDOT. And Sun Metro has brought aboard Carl Jackson, who is the Assistant Director of Streetcar Operations, and he's leading the document review team and completion of the development of the documents. They're taking the lead on it. Sun Metro will, and we'll be providing the support. And this will be ongoing between now and revenue service, which will start in very, very late 2018. Community involvement has always been a big issue. Barracuda has been doing an outstanding job of it. Some of the recent presentations that we've made to the neighborhood, civic, and professional organizations include the Texas Society of Professional Engineers, American Council of Engineering Companies, the El Paso Chamber of Commerce, Kern Place Association. In fact, I just gave one here a couple of weeks ago to the Kern Place Association, and then the Central Business District Association. We continue to issue the weekly newsletters and provide regular updates to Facebook and Instagram, including the production and posting of videos that explain the street closures and lane restrictions. I hope some of you have had a chance to look at some of the videos and some of the maps. We try to keep the community informed. In fact, we had the little issue last night with the temporary closure of some of the lanes on Wyoming, and the Barracuda immediately got out and posted that information on the internet, notified the TV stations and stuff, so the community would be informed. The other thing we're doing is we hold the weekly stakeholder meetings and any special event coordination meetings that people might want. We are now holding monthly messaging meetings with the Border West Expressway so we can coordinate our work with the Border West Expressway. We continue to keep our hotline, and we issue the door-to-door notifications. We just issued a bunch of them for Kansas Street, a couple for Kansas, for El Paso, for Santa Fe Street, and the Chihuahua Historic District. This is one of the maps that we prepare on a weekly basis to show all of the various closures. And then at the weekly stakeholders meeting, she goes over the map. This is made available on the web and prints for handouts, so people will have an idea of where we're going to be working and what we're going to be doing. On the construction management portion, we've received over almost 300 submittals to date, of which we've closed closely 248 of them. We're still processing some. We estimate a total of submittals and deliverables by the end of the project to be about 1,750 submittals. We've received 238 RFIs and closed 230 of them. Just to background the RFIs, where the contractor has a question, so our approach to that is those are always critical. If they have a question, we try to answer them as quickly as possible. The contractors, we've received 7 pay requests to date, and we've processed them to keep the payments up so the contractor can make sure that their subconsultants or subcontractors are paid on a timely basis. But that's all I have to present for this quarter. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Gardner?
Sure.
Hello, Mr. Gardner. I have a question about what you've paid out for the streetcar repairs. It seems kind of high. So you paid out basically 1/3 of the contract. What kind of documentation are they submitting to show you where they are in terms of renovating those cars?
This is for the streetcar repair?
Yeah, I mean, they're not local, so you can't go site visit and make sure it's being done. So what is it that you're getting to ensure we're not paying ahead of where they're at?
Right. What they have are milestones. The streetcar payment is kind of an interesting one. It's not really a monthly payment. It's a milestone payment. So each time they reach a milestone, then they can process an invoice for payment. That was one of the things we kind of had to get used to, because I'm expecting to see a monthly payment from the contractor, and instead they don't. For the vehicles, they pay them on a less than periodic basis because they wait until they do the milestones. But in order to give you a better answer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Chuck Berry to get up here and tell us. Chuck, what could you come up and explain the payments on that, because it is a valid question and critical.
Madam Chair, Board, my name is Chuck Berry. I'm with AECOM, and I am the design project manager for your streetcar project, working together with Atkins as the construction manager and program manager. I noted the same, Ms. Hiner, and I think what you're seeing is during the negotiations for the project, we were value engineering the payments, and one of the methods that came about was that if we were to provide a upfront payment at NTP to the contractor, they reduced their bid price on the order of $300,000 or $400,000, I believe it was. It was a very large sum. So there was an initial payment at notice to proceed, and that's what's kind of front-loading that payment schedule. The others, there's only been about a handful of invoices that were paid to the vehicle contractor, and those are on the order of $100,000, $200,000 to, I think the last one that we received was about $500,000. So I think what you saw in that 25 to 30% payment was that initial upfront NTP payment that they were able to reduce their bid price on the order of about $300,000 or $400,000. I can get that specific number for you shortly.
So when you get a request for payment, I mean, they're not located in El Paso. Is there site visits planned to go see that the work's actually being done?
No, there's a great deal of documentation that they need to turn in to be able to document that there's the milestone has been achieved. In addition to that, we speak with them on the phone weekly, and those meetings are about an hour. And then in addition to the daily communication, so we're well aware of where they are on the schedule, what they've accomplished. We've got photographs. What we're trying to do is manage your funding very carefully so that we're not making trips to Brookville, Pennsylvania once a month. I think we have to fly into Pittsburgh and drive into Brookville. It's not necessary. We have all the documentation that's necessary to back up those payments to date.
And so would you say that all 6 of the cars have been stripped down? We saw the picture of 2, so and the other ones
No,
just
they're-
seem to be out there.
2 of the vehicles have been stripped down to the base paint, and then this month or into September, they will grit blast down to the bare metal. At that point, there's going to be some very detailed structural reviews for confirming what we think we already know, that they're in very good shape. Then they will be processed one to 2 vehicles at a time. And that's why the deliveries are spaced out about a month and a half between deliveries, because that's their production schedule.
Okay, well, I think I'll continue to have questions. I just worry about front-loading too many payments and maybe not seeing the progress.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And we're watching that very carefully. In fact,
Okay.
we've gone back and forth with them a couple of times, keeping track of their schedule, keeping track of their documentation, and then reaffirming that during the weekly meetings and the photographs.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Berry.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7, discussion and action on a board resolution to authorize the executive director to execute an amendment to the bike share operations agreement with Messia Pedicab Company related to the recent expansion of the Sun Cycle bike share program. Mr. Tez.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So today we have, as item number 7, an amendment to the bike share operations agreement. As you'll recall, when we launched Sun Cycle, which is the El Paso bike share program, in September of 2015, when we launched that, we right before launch, we hired Messia Pedicab Company to manage the operations of the Sun Cycle program. So now, as you know, we've launched phase 2, which in essence doubled the system. So originally we launched in September 15 of 2015 with 80 bikes and 8 stations. We've since purchased an additional 80 bikes with an additional 8 stations. We've placed 7 of those 8 stations, and we have built and put into service the additional 80 bikes. So we have, in essence, doubled our system already. So what you see before you is item number 7 is an amendment to that original agreement, increasing the services and the compensation to the operator, which is Messia Pedicab. One thing I would mention, too, is that we've actually, now that we've had almost a year under our belt with operations, we've been able to go into Exhibit A1 and tweak the services, the scope of work that we are requesting of the operator. So that's what you see before you. So the amendment itself actually does 2 things. It replaces the scope of services that was originally identified as Exhibit A, and replaces Exhibit C, which was the fee schedule as well. So, and one last note on a really, really good note, and I mentioned this by email to you all, but I like to share this as often as possible. In July, we had more rides in July than we did in the prior quarter. And that prior quarter was really very strong. So very exciting to see the amount of folks that are actually taking advantage of this system and are out there riding every single day. So very exciting. But subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this particular item. And, of course, we have someone from the Messia Pedicab Company here as well, should you have any questions from them.
Sorry, I have a question.
Go ahead. Ms. Senior.
Raymond, this is a great project. I love it. But can you tell us where we are in terms of maybe getting some sponsorships to help future funding? Because I think this has been in the paper a lot. It's an exciting project. We really have to grab onto that and try to get some sponsors for getting some revenue in the queue, because we know that that's going to be a problem in the future. Can you let
Yes,
me,
ma'am.
where are we on that, or can we put on the agenda for an update?
Certainly, we can do both. So I'll tell you where we are right now. What we've done is we've developed a program,
Well, yeah, we develop a program. So we have a promotional program is what we're calling a sponsorship program. So that identifies what it'll cost for an entity to be the title sponsor for all 160 bikes and the full 8 stations. So we have a feel for what that would look like. We have a program where we would provide, by way of example, we'd go to a hotel and sell a stack of promo codes, is what we call them, and that allows you to have a free day's worth of rides for free. So we would sell those to the hotels. We've got all sorts of different components to the sponsorship program. Now what we're doing is we're finalizing that program. We're putting it into and we actually are using Barracuda PR on that one as well to develop a package for it so that we can go out and begin selling that promotional program as well. So that's being worked out, and we're going to finalize that and hopefully have that to you all very soon. But that is in progress.
Perfect. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So item number 7 has been approved. I wanted to, before we end our meeting, I wanted to acknowledge David Bukowski. He's the RMA coordinator for TxDOT. Mr. Bukowski, would you like to say some words?
Oh, just here to visit, really, and see how things are going. I travel the state with...
Would you like to come to the... And just introduce yourself, just say your
thank
name
you.
and...
David Plutowski. I'm with TxDOT. I'm the statewide RMA coordinator, so I work with the 9 RMAs across the state. And travel around the state, go to various board meetings, and also help kind of a liaison between the RMAs, the TxDOT districts, and our TxDOT administration to help push action through and so forth. So I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being
Welcome.
here. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. If there's no other business in front of the RMA,
Move.
thank you. Move to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now adjourned on, at 10:01 on August
Beat you
10th,
to it.
2016. Thank you very much.
Yeah, fine.